Emily Carter's heart sank when she found the perfume bottle from her grandmother completely empty, used up entirely by her roommate. What began as envy soon turned deadly, exposing secrets that would change their lives forever. The July morning in New York was sticky and hot. Emily Carter sat at the small desk in her apartment, eyes glued to her laptop screen, working on a graphic design for a new client. The small, battered fan she'd placed on the windowsill barely stirred the heavy air. Sweat dotted her forehead, making strands of her blonde hair stick to her cheeks. The heat had made working difficult, but deadlines waited for no one, especially freelancers. Emily had built a steady reputation over the past 2 years. She loved her job, loved the freedom it provided, even if it meant working weekends and late nights. It was worth it for the small victories, like today, when she'd just landed another important project. Her lips curled into a tired smile as she rearranged layers in her design software, content in her modest success. Across the apartment, her roommate Sophia lounged casually on the faded blue sofa, scrolling through auditions on her phone. Sophia was an aspiring actress, with deep brown curls and an easy charm that got her far in casting calls, though rarely beyond that. She had moved in 6 months ago, quickly becoming more friend than roommate, sharing laughs and late-night conversations. Emily liked Sophia's warmth, though she often wished she could match her charm with a bit more responsibility. "Emily, there's a package downstairs for you," Sophia called suddenly, eyes still fixed on her phone. Emily looked up, confused. "A package? Did you order something?" Sophia shook her head, glancing briefly toward the door. "Nope." The delivery guy buzzed. "He said it's from your grandma." Emily felt warmth bloom in her chest at the mention of her grandmother. Margaret, the woman who had practically raised her after her parents divorced and started their own separate families, never forgot Emily's birthday. Even at 80 years old, Margaret was full of life, attentive, always making Emily feel valued and loved. Emily quickly slipped on her sandals and headed downstairs. Moments later, she returned to the apartment holding a neatly wrapped parcel. The delicate silver wrapping paper shimmered faintly in the morning sun that slanted through the window. Sophia peered up curiously from the sofa, setting her phone down to watch as Emily carefully peeled back the paper. Inside was a small, sophisticated black box, simple yet elegant, with ornate lettering spelling out the name of a luxurious French brand Emily had only ever admired from afar, Pearl Noir. She gasped softly, lifting the lid to reveal a glass perfume bottle, its delicate curve sparkling under the muted morning light. Sophia leaned forward, eyes wide in admiration. "Wow, your grandma sure has classy taste." Emily ran her fingertips over the bottle, the glass cool to her touch. A faint floral fragrance wafted gently upward, subtle but captivating. Emily breathed deeply, smiling at how her grandmother always knew exactly what would delight her most. Nestled in the box beside the bottle was a small handwritten note, Margaret's careful script easily recognizable. "My darling Emily," it read, "this perfume was custom blended especially for you. Wear it sparingly. Each drop is rare, just like you. Happy birthday, with all my love, Grandma Margaret." Sophia read over Emily's shoulder and whistled softly. "Custom perfume? That sounds expensive." Emily laughed lightly, carefully setting the box down on the desk. "It probably cost her a fortune. Grandma never does anything halfway." "Can I smell it?" Sophia asked eagerly, stretching a hand toward the perfume. Emily hesitated for a moment, but then lifted the bottle and spritzed a tiny mist onto her wrist. A rich, warm fragrance filled the air, sensual and deeply feminine, with subtle hints of jasmine, vanilla, and something mysterious she couldn't quite identify. Sophia inhaled deeply, clearly impressed. "It's amazing," Sophia murmured. "You'll have everyone in Manhattan following you around." Emily laughed again, touched yet cautious. "I'll save it for special occasions. Grandma said to use it sparingly." Sophia leaned back into the cushions, a wistful expression crossing her features. "Lucky you. I wish someone sent me fancy perfume for my birthday." Emily smiled gently, feeling a pang of sympathy for her friend, whose family seemed distant and distracted, rarely acknowledging Sophia's dreams or even her birthdays. Still, Emily carefully placed the perfume back into its box, closing it gently. She'd cherish it, just like every thoughtful gesture Margaret had ever made. The apartment returned to quiet. Sophia picked up her phone again, scrolling through more editions, while Emily resumed her work, feeling strangely comforted by the delicate scent lingering on her skin. Later, as evening approached, Emily prepared dinner, a simple pasta dish she often made when she was tired. As the sauce simmered on the stove, Sophia wandered into the kitchen, hovering near the refrigerator, unusually silent. "Hey, are you okay?" Emily asked gently, noticing Sophia's troubled expression. Sophia nodded slowly, forcing a small smile. "Just tired of auditions, I guess. Nothing ever seems to click." Emily stirred the sauce thoughtfully. "Don't give up. You've come so close before. Something great will happen soon." Sophia shrugged softly, then eyed Emily curiously. "Do you think your grandma would ever adopt me?" "She seems great." Emily chuckled, but she sensed a seriousness beneath the joke. "Grandma loves everyone. I'm sure she'd love to meet you sometime." Sophia nodded vaguely and changed the subject, chatting casually as they ate dinner together. Later, Emily went to her bedroom, exhausted but satisfied. She placed the perfume on her dresser, promising herself she'd only use it on very special days. But as she lay down to sleep, she felt a nagging unease she couldn't explain, remembering Sophia's longing gaze at the gift, the strange seriousness beneath her humor. Emily shook off the feeling, attributing it to tiredness. Across the apartment, Sophia lay awake too, staring at the ceiling, feeling restless and empty. Her auditions, her disappointments, the growing envy she felt toward Emily's quiet success, all simmered uncomfortably inside her. She knew she shouldn't let it bother her, knew Emily was nothing but kind. But she also knew envy was like a weed, sneaking into her heart, growing unchecked. And that perfume, beautiful, expensive, exclusive, was suddenly something Sophia felt she desperately wanted. In the warm summer darkness, neither woman slept easily. Each was tangled in her own thoughts, unaware that this small gift, sent with love, would soon lead to misunderstandings, secrets, and betrayals neither had imagined possible. In the days following her birthday, Emily was swamped with work. New clients poured in steadily, each with demands and deadlines tighter than the last. Late nights became common, lit only by the gentle glow of her laptop screen, her tired eyes fighting sleep. Despite the growing fatigue, Emily found motivation in knowing she was building something meaningful for herself. Throughout that busy week, the elegant black box containing Margaret's perfume sat on her dresser, untouched since the first cautious spritz. Emily often glanced at it when she woke up each morning, silently promising herself she'd find a special occasion soon, something worthy of the precious gift. For now, though, practicality took precedence, and she settled for a more ordinary scent for everyday use. On Thursday morning, after another night of minimal sleep, Emily stepped out of her bedroom, stretching stiffly. She glanced into the living room, spotting Sophia preparing to leave for an audition. Sophia stood by the hallway mirror, adjusting the collar of her blouse, her makeup flawless, dark curls perfectly styled. "You look great," Emily offered, smiling encouragingly despite her exhaustion. Sophia turned, startled, as if she'd been caught off guard. Quickly recovering, she flashed a smile. "Thanks. It's for some commercial. Probably another waste of time, but gotta keep trying, right?" Emily nodded warmly, noticing a familiar scent in the air. It took a second before she recognized it, the subtle notes of jasmine and vanilla. Her heart jolted uncomfortably as suspicion crept into her mind. "Are you wearing the perfume Grandma sent?" Emily asked quietly, trying to keep her voice casual. Sophia's eyes widened slightly before quickly becoming guarded. "What?" "No, I mean, maybe a tiny bit. I'm sorry, Em. I was nervous and wanted something nice, for luck." Emily swallowed her irritation, managing a forced smile. "It's okay. Just please ask next time." Grandma specifically told me to use it sparingly. Sophia nodded, visibly embarrassed. You're right. It was impulsive of me. I won't do it again. Emily sighed softly, the tension easing slightly. It's fine. Good luck at your audition. Sophia smiled gratefully, quickly grabbing her purse and heading out the door. Emily watched her go, shaking off the uneasy feeling that lingered. After all, Sophia had admitted her mistake. There was no need to hold a grudge. But something about Sophia's initial denial bothered her, an inconsistency that clung stubbornly to the back of Emily's mind. Later that day, Emily video-called Margaret during her lunch break. The elderly woman's face lit up brightly when Emily appeared on her screen. Margaret's blue eyes were as sharp as ever, though softened by age and countless gentle smiles. "How are you, sweetheart?" Margaret asked warmly, studying Emily through the screen. "Busy as always?" Emily chuckled softly. "Swamped, actually. But it's good busy." Margaret nodded knowingly. "I'm proud of you, darling. You're working so hard." Emily felt a rush of warmth at her grandmother's praise. After a moment's pause, Margaret leaned forward slightly, voice lowering in seriousness. "Tell me honestly, Emily. Have you been using the perfume sparingly as I instructed?" Emily hesitated briefly, debating whether to mention Sophia's unauthorized use. Ultimately, she decided against it. She didn't want Margaret to worry unnecessarily. "Of course, Grandma," Emily answered gently. "I'm saving it for special occasions." Margaret's expression softened again. "Good. It's not an ordinary perfume, Emily. Its ingredients are quite rare, more powerful than you'd guess. I just want you to be careful." Emily felt a flicker of curiosity. "Powerful? How so?" Margaret smiled faintly, shaking her head. "It's custom-made, blended by a woman I've known for decades. She always warned me about the potency of certain flowers she uses. Harmless in moderation, but problematic if misused." Emily laughed lightly, though she felt a strange shiver run down her spine. "You make it sound almost dangerous." Margaret's eyes grew serious again. "Just promise you'll use it wisely. It was crafted specifically for you." Emily quickly reassured her grandmother, gently changing the subject to ease Margaret's obvious anxiety. After chatting briefly about family and Margaret's garden, they said their goodbyes, leaving Emily feeling vaguely unsettled. She glanced toward her bedroom door, deciding to make sure the perfume remained safely hidden from any further misunderstandings. That evening, Emily placed the perfume bottle deep within her dresser drawer, covering it carefully beneath folded clothes. She felt slightly foolish for the precaution, but couldn't shake Margaret's strange warnings from her mind. Perhaps her grandmother was just growing overly cautious with age, yet the nagging unease refused to fade completely. Over the next few days, Emily's schedule remained relentless, leaving little time to dwell on perfume or anything else. Sophia seemed genuinely sorry for her previous mistake, never mentioning the perfume again. Emily felt relieved. The awkwardness had been minor, just a small misunderstanding between friends, easy enough to forget. Yet, by Saturday evening, Emily couldn't shake a strange feeling, a vague discomfort that things weren't quite as they appeared. After another long day, she entered her bedroom, ready to collapse into bed. As she changed into her nightclothes, a faint but unmistakable fragrance reached her once more, rich, floral, and disturbingly familiar. Heart pounding slightly, Emily pulled open her dresser drawer. The black box was exactly where she had left it. She opened it quickly, her pulse quickening when she saw the bottle. Her stomach dropped, almost half the perfume was now missing. Sophia. Emily's mind raced, confusion mingling with anger and hurt. Had Sophia lied again? Had she actually taken it despite Emily's direct request? She sank onto her bed, head spinning, struggling to rationalize Sophia's behavior. It seemed out of character. Sophia was careless at times, perhaps even thoughtless, but deliberate deceit didn't seem like her. Yet the evidence in front of Emily couldn't be ignored. A quiet tap at her bedroom door startled her. Sophia's voice drifted hesitantly through the wood. "Hey, everything okay? You've seemed tense lately." Emily drew a slow breath, willing herself calm. "Yeah," she answered carefully. "Just tired." Sophia lingered a moment, silence heavy between them. Finally, she spoke softly. "Look, if something's wrong, you can tell me, you know? We're friends." Emily hesitated briefly, her throat tight. "Thanks, Sophia," she finally whispered. "I know." Sophia moved quietly away from the door, leaving Emily alone in the dim room. Despite Sophia's reassuring words, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that trust between them had been damaged. She carefully closed the perfume box, her grandmother's gentle warnings echoing softly in her mind, making her wonder what consequences lay hidden behind the deceptively innocent fragrance. The perfume incident lingered in Emily's mind like a shadow, stubborn and unsettling. Days passed slowly, marked by tension-filled silences between Emily and Sophia. Neither openly acknowledged the strain, but their easy laughter and shared meals grew less frequent. Emily found herself retreating into her work, burying feelings of betrayal beneath piles of client deadlines and endless design revisions. Sophia, on the other hand, seemed determined to act as though nothing had happened. She continued going to auditions, maintaining a cheerful demeanor around the apartment. But Emily noticed a careful distance, a hesitation in Sophia's eyes whenever their paths crossed, as though she were trying to gauge Emily's suspicion. One afternoon, while Emily worked quietly at her desk, Sophia came into the living room dressed neatly for yet another audition. Emily glanced up, offering a brief smile, feeling the awkward silence press upon her chest. Sophia hesitated at the door, adjusting her purse nervously. "Emily, do you want to talk about anything?" Emily sighed softly, rubbing her temples, exhaustion evident. She didn't want another confrontation. "I'm just busy with work," she answered quietly, avoiding direct eye contact. "Everything's fine." Sophia lingered a moment longer, clearly dissatisfied with the response, but finally left without another word. The click of the door shutting behind her made Emily's shoulders relax slightly. She hated this tension, but the memory of the half-empty perfume bottle still stung, and she wasn't ready to forgive easily. That evening, while washing dishes, Emily felt a sudden dizziness. She paused, gripping the countertop to steady herself. The sensation was brief but intense enough to alarm her. She splashed cold water onto her face, trying to shake off the strange feeling. She chalked it up to fatigue and stress, reasoning that late nights spent in front of her screen were finally catching up. However, the next morning, as she brushed her hair, Emily noticed a faint red rash appearing on her wrist. She touched it gently, puzzled. She hadn't changed soaps or lotions lately. Perhaps it was an allergic reaction, but to what exactly remained unclear. Shrugging it off, Emily dressed quickly, eager to start her workday and distract herself from her worries. Later, during a video meeting with her client, Emily felt another wave of nausea and dizziness, more intense than before. Her vision blurred slightly, forcing her to pause mid-sentence, heart racing. Her client's concerned voice pulled her back. "Emily? Are you all right?" Embarrassed, Emily quickly apologized, blaming a headache and promising to reschedule. Ending the call abruptly, she leaned back in her chair, breathing shakily, anxiety prickling her skin. She'd never felt this way before. Something was definitely wrong. Concerned, Emily decided to reach out to Hannah, her closest friend and colleague, who often provided clarity in difficult moments. Hannah, always practical and calm, immediately picked up the phone. "Hannah, I don't feel right," Emily admitted quietly. "I've been dizzy, nauseous." "It's strange." Hannah's voice filled with concern. "You've been working nonstop. Have you eaten today?" "Slept." Emily hesitated. "Not much, honestly." "Then that's probably it," Hannah reassured gently. "But please, promise you'll rest. Take a day off. Your health matters." Emily agreed reluctantly, feeling somewhat reassured by Hannah's advice. Yet a part of her remained uneasy. These symptoms felt oddly persistent, unlike typical stress or exhaustion. That evening, Sophia returned late from an audition. She seemed unusually tired, almost pale. Emily, despite their recent awkwardness, couldn't help but feel concerned. "Are you okay?" Emily asked softly, noticing the shadows beneath Sophia's eyes. Sophia smiled weakly. "Just tired. Auditions are draining, you know." Emily nodded, her suspicion momentarily fading into empathy. She recognized the familiar toll disappointment could take. "Did it go badly?" Sophia shrugged, visibly deflated. "It felt pointless. Sometimes I wonder if I'm chasing something impossible." The vulnerability in Sophia's voice softened Emily's lingering resentment. She hesitated briefly before offering genuine reassurance. "You're talented. It's only a matter of time." Sophia's smile warmed slightly, though sadness lingered in her eyes. "Thanks, Em. It means a lot, especially after everything." Emily felt a flicker of awkwardness but chose not to dwell on it. The momentary connection had felt sincere, reminding her of the genuine friendship beneath recent tensions. She wanted to believe the perfume situation was a simple misunderstanding, not a calculated deception. However, later that night, unable to sleep, Emily lay awake staring at the ceiling, thoughts swirling uncomfortably. A subtle fragrance still lingered faintly in the apartment, Margaret's perfume. Was it imagination, paranoia, or had Sophia truly ignored her request once more? Emily's trust felt brittle, easily fractured by doubts and half-truths. Determined to settle her mind, Emily quietly rose and opened her dresser drawer again. Her heart sank. Only a small fraction of the perfume now remained. Anger surged through her veins, stronger than before. Sophia hadn't just used it occasionally, she'd clearly continued behind Emily's back, despite her promises. The betrayal felt sharper, more personal this time. Heart racing, Emily returned to bed, unable to find rest. Margaret's warnings echoed again, strange words about potency, rare ingredients, consequences of misuse. Was this dizziness, rash, and nausea connected somehow? Could the perfume actually be harmful? By dawn, exhaustion overtook her anxiety, pulling Emily into uneasy sleep. Hours later, she woke feeling drained but determined. She'd confront Sophia directly, demand answers, and resolve this once and for all. Yet, when she stepped into the kitchen, she found Sophia already awake, leaning weakly against the counter. Her face looked paler than ever, and Emily saw clearly now a rash similar to her own spreading faintly across Sophia's neck and wrists. "Sophia, are you feeling okay?" Emily asked sharply, alarm overtaking anger. Sophia shook her head slowly, eyes glazed. "Not really. I feel awful." Emily's stomach twisted. Whatever resentment she felt instantly shifted to worry. Sophia's condition mirrored her own symptoms, except worse. "Have you seen a doctor?" Emily pressed urgently. "No," Sophia admitted quietly, trembling slightly. "I thought it was nerves. Stress." Emily took a deep breath, her voice serious. "We need to see someone. Today." Sophia nodded silently, suddenly frightened. Emily felt a rush of guilt and confusion. Could the perfume be causing harm? Did Sophia know something she didn't, or was she truly unaware? The delicate fragrance seemed to hover between them, silent yet powerful, a subtle poison neither fully understood yet. But both women now knew one thing for certain. Whatever was happening to them wasn't just a misunderstanding or trivial disagreement. It was real, and dangerously so. Emily and Sophia arrived at the small clinic in Midtown later that morning, both feeling tense and uncertain. They sat silently in the sterile waiting room, the quiet hum of fluorescent lights above them adding to the anxious atmosphere. Sophia's face was drawn, exhaustion clear in her slumped posture and dark circles beneath her eyes. Emily couldn't help but feel sympathy despite her lingering frustration. When the nurse finally called them in, Sophia insisted Emily go first, nervously waving her hand. Emily reluctantly entered the examination room alone, trying to calm her racing heart. The doctor was kind, listening carefully as Emily described the dizziness, nausea, and rash she'd been experiencing. "Have you introduced any new products into your environment lately?" the doctor asked, jotting notes down efficiently. Emily hesitated briefly, feeling foolish. I received a new perfume for my birthday, custom-made by someone my grandma knows. But I've barely used it myself. The doctor looked thoughtful. Do you have allergies or sensitivities? Not typically, Emily answered honestly. But my roommate used it quite a bit more than I did, and she's feeling even worse. The doctor's eyebrows raised slightly. Perfume sensitivity can cause these symptoms, especially with rare or exotic ingredients. It's worth testing for allergies or toxins just to be safe. Emily nodded anxiously. Could it really be harmful? Possibly, the doctor admitted carefully. If it contains certain natural extracts or essential oils in high concentrations, prolonged exposure could lead to reactions. After ordering blood tests, the doctor asked Emily to send a small sample of the perfume to a lab for analysis. Emily agreed readily, feeling both relief and lingering dread. When she stepped back into the waiting room, Sophia stood up quickly, searching Emily's expression for answers. What did they say? Sophia asked softly, eyes wide with worry. Emily sighed quietly. They think it might be the perfume causing our symptoms. They're doing tests. Sophia's expression shifted suddenly, a shadow of guilt briefly passing over her features. She looked away, unable to meet Emily's eyes directly. I didn't realize it could hurt us, she murmured, voice barely audible. Emily felt her frustration flare again, but held it back. Let's wait until we have answers before we panic. Sophia nodded faintly, her shoulders slumping further. Emily felt an urge to comfort her, but the betrayal still lingered uncomfortably between them, making genuine warmth difficult. After Sophia's appointment, they returned to the apartment in uneasy silence. Sophia immediately went to her room, quietly closing the door behind her. Emily sat at the kitchen table, staring at her phone, debating whether to call her grandmother. Margaret had warned her repeatedly, and Emily now understood that the perfume wasn't merely special, it was potentially dangerous. Yet the thought of upsetting Margaret filled Emily with hesitation. Instead, Emily reached out again to Hannah, explaining the situation in detail. Hannah listened intently, her logical mind quickly assessing the possibilities. Do you trust Sophia now? Hannah asked cautiously. Emily sighed deeply, closing her eyes. I don't know. I believe she didn't mean to hurt anyone, but she lied to me. And she clearly knew she was taking something precious. Hannah's voice softened gently. Maybe jealousy made her careless. It's possible she didn't think beyond her desire to have what you had. Emily considered this quietly. She hated feeling suspicious of someone who had become a friend, but facts couldn't be ignored. Maybe she finally conceded. But the bigger issue is the perfume itself. Grandma specifically said to use it sparingly. I should have listened more carefully. Call her, Hannah urged softly. She knows something you don't. If this perfume is dangerous, she needs to know what's happening. Emily nodded, finally accepting that she couldn't avoid this conversation any longer. After ending her call with Hannah, she dialed Margaret's number, heart pounding nervously. Margaret answered quickly, her gentle voice filled with warmth as always. Emily, darling, I was just thinking about you. Emily swallowed anxiously, forcing herself to speak calmly. Grandma, I need to talk to you about the perfume. Margaret's voice shifted instantly, concern evident. Is something wrong? Emily drew a shaky breath, admitting everything. The disappearing perfume, Sophia's repeated usage, their mysterious symptoms, and finally, the doctor's suggestion that it might contain harmful ingredients. Margaret fell silent for a long moment, her breathing audible but uneven. Emily, I should have been clearer, she finally said, voice heavy with regret. That perfume was never meant to be shared or used carelessly. It contains an extract from a rare flower, a type of orchid that, in high doses, can become toxic. Emily felt cold dread creep into her chest. Why would you send something dangerous? Margaret's voice trembled slightly. Because, in moderation, it's entirely safe, beneficial, even. The scent enhances confidence, happiness. I thought you'd use it carefully, sparingly, exactly as instructed. Emily's thoughts raced frantically. Is it permanent? Did we poison ourselves? Margaret spoke quickly, reassuringly. No, not if you stop immediately. But overuse could lead to longer-term health effects. Emily, how much did Sophia use? Nearly the entire bottle, Emily admitted quietly. Far more than I ever intended. Margaret sighed deeply. Then she needs medical attention immediately. It's rare, but severe exposure can cause permanent damage. Emily felt sickened, guilt and anger swirling uncomfortably. She ended the call after promising Margaret she'd handle it carefully and rushed to Sophia's door, knocking urgently. Sophia, we need to talk. Now. The door opened slowly, revealing Sophia's pale, frightened face. Emily, what's happening? Emily explained quickly, repeating Margaret's warnings, watching the blood drain from Sophia's face. I didn't know, Sophia whispered, tears forming rapidly. I swear, I never meant to hurt you, or myself. I was just jealous. It made me feel special, successful, like things were finally going right. Emily's anger softened into pity. We both need treatment. The doctor said early intervention matters. Sophia nodded shakily, terrified but cooperative. I'm so sorry, Emily. Please believe me. Emily sighed, the tension easing slightly. I believe you didn't intend harm, but Sophia, you lied to me repeatedly. You took something deeply personal, knowing it was important. Trust matters. Sophia lowered her eyes, shame evident. I'll make it right somehow. Emily hoped Sophia meant it. As they returned to the clinic for further testing, Emily's mind spun with confusion, hurt, and lingering concern. A seemingly innocent birthday gift had turned their lives upside down, exposing jealousy and betrayal beneath the surface of friendship. And Emily knew, deep down, the consequences were far from over. 2 days later, the test results arrived. Emily had just finished lunch when her phone buzzed with a notification from the clinic. Sophia sat across from her at the kitchen table, nervously tapping her fingers against the worn wood surface. They exchanged tense glances before Emily opened the message. The report confirmed their worst fears. Both women had traces of a rare botanical toxin in their bloodstreams, one typically associated with a rare orchid extract. Emily's levels were moderate, reflecting her limited exposure. But Sophia's were dangerously high, raising serious medical concerns. Sophia read the results quietly, her face draining of color, her breath shaky. What does this mean? She asked weakly, her voice barely audible. Emily scrolled further through the message, anxiety gripping her chest. The doctor says we need to go back immediately. They want to admit you for monitoring and treatment. Your levels are serious, Sophia. Sophia nodded numbly, tears forming at the corners of her eyes. Emily, I swear I didn't mean. Emily gently cut her off, trying to remain calm despite the turmoil inside. I know, Sophia. It doesn't matter now. What matters is getting you help. Within the hour, they arrived at the hospital. Emily helped Sophia check in, answering the nurse's questions while Sophia sat pale and silent beside her. Soon, Sophia was whisked away for intensive tests, leaving Emily alone in the bustling waiting room, overwhelmed by guilt, worry, and exhaustion. As she sat anxiously awaiting news, her phone rang, startling her. It was Margaret. Emily hesitated briefly, dread tightening in her chest before answering. Margaret spoke quickly, her voice filled with urgency and concern. Emily, sweetheart, have you received your results? Emily sighed, fighting back emotion. Yes. Mine aren't severe, but Sophia's are really bad. She's being admitted right now. Margaret was silent for a moment, her breathing heavy on the line. I'm coming to New York. Immediately. Emily tried to protest, knowing Margaret was older and travel could be hard on her, but Margaret firmly interrupted. No, Emily. This is my fault. I should have been clearer. I owe it to you both to be there. Emily finally agreed, recognizing the determination in her grandmother's voice. Margaret promised to be there by evening, hanging up quickly to arrange transportation. Later, as Emily paced the hallway outside Sophia's hospital room, the doctor approached, his expression serious yet calm. Sophia's stable for now, he informed Emily gently. But she's experiencing organ strain due to the toxin exposure. Early intervention is critical, and we're doing everything we can. Emily nodded, trembling slightly. Will there be permanent damage? The doctor hesitated briefly. It's too soon to know. But given her exposure, the risk of lasting effects is real. You acted just in time, though. A few more days, and it could have been much worse. Emily thanked him quietly, her mind spinning. Sophia's reckless choices had nearly cost her life. Emily felt torn between anger and compassion, guilt and resentment. Above all, though, she wanted Sophia to recover fully, hoping their friendship could somehow survive this crisis. By evening, Margaret arrived at the hospital, visibly shaken but determined. She embraced Emily tightly, her delicate frame surprisingly strong. When Margaret saw Sophia lying pale and exhausted in the hospital bed, she covered her mouth, visibly upset. Sophia met Margaret's gaze shamefully. "I'm so sorry," she whispered weakly, eyes glistening with tears. "I never wanted this." Margaret's expression softened instantly. She gently squeezed Sophia's hand. "I believe you, child. This was a terrible mistake, but one I also contributed to. I should have been clearer about the dangers." Emily watched the exchange silently, feeling moved by Margaret's compassion and Sophia's sincerity. Yet a subtle unease remained, an unspoken tension beneath Margaret's gentle words. It was as though there was still something she hadn't revealed fully. After leaving Sophia's room, Margaret took Emily aside privately, sitting together in a quiet waiting area. Margaret sighed deeply, clasping her granddaughter's hands tightly. "Emily, there's more you need to know. I didn't tell you everything about the perfume." Emily's heart tightened anxiously. "What do you mean, Grandma?" Margaret took a deep breath before continuing. "Many years ago, the woman who blended this perfume for me warned about its potency. She uses an incredibly rare orchid, found only in remote jungles. Used correctly, it enhances confidence and well-being. But in high doses, it can severely harm, even kill." Emily stared, horrified. "Why didn't you say anything sooner?" Margaret's eyes filled with tears. "Because decades ago, I made the same mistake. Someone I cared deeply about became very sick after I gifted her a similar perfume. She recovered, thankfully, but the guilt never left me. I thought I'd learned to be careful." Emily squeezed Margaret's hand softly. "Who was it?" Margaret hesitated, sadness clouding her face. "My younger sister. She was never the same afterward, physically weaker, constantly tired. It haunted me. I wanted this perfume to be something special for you, something precious to be cherished, but I should never have risked it." Emily remained quiet, absorbing Margaret's painful confession. "Does that mean Sophia might never fully recover?" Margaret lowered her eyes, unable to hide her fear. "It's possible. Sophia's exposure was far greater than my sister's. But the doctors know what they're dealing with now. There's hope." Emily felt tears prick her eyes. "How do we move past this, Grandma? Sophia was reckless, but I feel responsible too. I didn't realize how much envy she carried. How do we fix this?" Margaret's gentle gaze held wisdom and sorrow. "You can't fix envy, Emily. Sophia will have to address her own feelings. But you can decide whether friendship and forgiveness are worth the struggle ahead." Emily nodded silently, her thoughts heavy with uncertainty. Margaret patted Emily's hand reassuringly. "Rest now. The next few days will be challenging, but you're not alone. We'll face whatever comes together." Late that night, Emily sat alone at Sophia's bedside, watching her friend sleep restlessly, machines humming softly around them. She wondered how Sophia's quiet envy had escalated so dangerously, how something as simple as perfume had nearly destroyed 2 lives. Yet despite her anger, Emily's heart ached with compassion. Sophia's fragile vulnerability, laid bare by illness, made forgiveness feel possible, eventually. She knew their friendship, if it survived, would need careful rebuilding. Trust, shattered by lies, wouldn't mend quickly. Emily quietly vowed that night that, whatever the future held, she would no longer ignore the truths hidden beneath the surface. Friendship required honesty, openness, and understanding, qualities both women would need to relearn in the painful days to come. After Sophia had spent 2 long days in the hospital, Emily finally brought her home. Sophia looked fragile, quieter than Emily had ever seen her. Her usually vibrant friend seemed withdrawn, burdened by shame and lingering illness. Emily felt a mixture of relief and sadness as she guided Sophia carefully into their apartment, helping her settle onto the sofa. Margaret had stayed with them during Sophia's hospitalization, quietly cooking meals and maintaining calm amid the chaos. Now, as the three women sat silently in the apartment, an unspoken tension hovered around them. Margaret sipped tea quietly, watching Sophia carefully, her eyes gentle yet deeply thoughtful. Emily tried to break the silence, softly asking, "Sophia, do you need anything?" Sophia shook her head slightly, staring down at her hands resting in her lap. "You've already done too much. I don't deserve all this kindness." Margaret leaned forward, placing her tea on the table. "You made a mistake. Everyone does. Now it's time to heal." Sophia looked up, eyes shimmering with tears. "I'm afraid I can't make this right." Emily sighed gently, feeling torn. "Healing takes time. We just have to start somewhere." After a moment's hesitation, Margaret carefully suggested, "Perhaps understanding more about what happened could help us move forward. Maybe there's still something we're missing." Emily glanced at her grandmother, puzzled. What else could there be? Margaret hesitated briefly. The woman who created this perfume, Eleanor, was incredibly cautious. She warned me repeatedly that only I should use it. I thought she was overly cautious, but perhaps there was more reason than I realized. Sophia looked up slowly, her voice barely audible. "You think there's something else dangerous?" Margaret shook her head, thoughtful. "No, not exactly dangerous. But perhaps Eleanor didn't tell me the entire truth about its effects." Emily felt uneasy again. "What do you mean, Grandma?" Margaret hesitated, choosing her words carefully. Eleanor was a skilled herbalist and somewhat eccentric. She told me the perfume was meant to enhance the wearer's confidence and charisma. But she also hinted it could amplify other emotions, especially envy or jealousy, in those not meant to use it. Sophia visibly tensed, eyes wide in shock. "You mean it made me worse?" Margaret nodded gently. "It's possible. The perfume was specifically blended to suit Emily's nature. Using it repeatedly might have intensified your envy." Sophia covered her mouth, shaken. I felt so desperate, almost obsessed. Like I couldn't stop myself from using it. I thought I was losing my mind. Emily felt a pang of sympathy. "Why didn't you say something?" Sophia lowered her eyes shamefully. "I didn't want to admit it. Every time I used it, it felt wonderful at first, like I was special, important. But afterward, it left me feeling empty, anxious, and craving more. I never considered it was the perfume itself." Margaret sighed deeply. "I suspect Eleanor knew exactly what she created. But perhaps she underestimated how easily envy could spiral out of control." Emily looked at Margaret, frustration edging her voice. Why would she create something so risky? Margaret met Emily's gaze solemnly. She believed in deep connections between fragrances and human emotions. Perhaps she thought that by crafting something uniquely suited to one person, she could empower them. She warned me repeatedly never to share it, and I misunderstood her reasoning. Emily felt overwhelmed, her mind racing with uncomfortable thoughts. She had always trusted Margaret implicitly, but now she realized even her wise grandmother had blind spots. This perfume had revealed hidden truths about all of them, truths about envy, obsession, and unintended consequences. Sophia finally broke the tense silence, her voice trembling but sincere. "I should never have touched it, Emily. It wasn't mine to use. The perfume didn't create my envy, it only exposed what was already inside me. That's what scares me most." Emily reached out slowly, gently placing her hand on Sophia's shoulder. "Everyone feels envy sometimes. What matters now is how you deal with it." Sophia nodded. The apartment felt strangely empty without Sophia, even though Margaret now stayed with Emily. Sophia remained hospitalized, stable but weak, and Emily visited her each day, quietly sharing small talk but avoiding deeper conversations. There was still tension between them. Unspoken questions and uneasy silences filled the room whenever they tried to discuss the perfume or the betrayal that lingered beneath it. Late one afternoon, after returning from the hospital, Emily sat alone in the quiet apartment. Margaret had gone to buy groceries, leaving Emily with her thoughts. Sophia's room door was slightly ajar, revealing the neatly made bed and familiar belongings that suddenly seemed foreign. A strange impulse nudged Emily, driving her towards Sophia's room. She knew it wasn't right, yet something compelled her forward, curiosity mixed with unresolved anger. Slowly, cautiously, Emily stepped into Sophia's room, glancing around. Everything appeared tidy, normal. But beneath the calm surface, Emily sensed hidden truths waiting to be uncovered. Drawn to Sophia's dresser, Emily hesitated, heart pounding with guilt at invading her friend's privacy, but continued anyway. Carefully, she slid open the top drawer, her breath quickening as she discovered a familiar object, a perfume bottle identical to her own, hidden beneath folded clothes. Her fingers trembled slightly as she picked it up. The bottle was completely empty. Emily's stomach twisted painfully. Sophia hadn't just borrowed the perfume occasionally, she'd drained it entirely, then hidden the empty bottle in shame. Beneath the empty bottle lay several letters, carefully tucked away. Emily lifted them out, recognizing Sophia's handwriting immediately. Her chest tightened as she unfolded them, realizing they were addressed to Sophia's sister back home. As Emily read, her heart sank deeper with each line. Sophia described feelings of inadequacy, jealousy, and bitterness toward Emily, admitting to her sister that she resented Emily's stable career, supportive family, and loving grandmother. Sophia's words grew increasingly bitter, revealing hidden envy that had consumed her silently for months. "I hate feeling like Emily always gets what she wants effortlessly," Sophia had written. Even her birthday gift, something as simple as perfume, made her seem special, important. "I wanted to feel that way too." Emily's eyes filled with tears, betrayal sharpening into sadness. How could Sophia have harbored such resentment without ever revealing it? Emily had never imagined Sophia felt so unhappy beneath her cheerful mask. Her hands trembled as she continued searching the drawer, discovering medical receipts hidden beneath the letters. They indicated Sophia had visited doctors privately before their shared symptoms surfaced. Emily studied the receipts carefully, noting dates stretching back several weeks before she'd ever suspected the perfume might be dangerous. Emily's pulse quickened. Had Sophia experienced symptoms earlier, yet continued using the perfume anyway? Had she suspected the cause all along? The possibility shocked Emily deeply, a fresh sense of betrayal coursing through her veins. She couldn't fathom why Sophia would deliberately risk her own health, or worse, why she would knowingly put Emily at risk. As Emily sat frozen, staring at the receipts, Margaret returned, softly calling her name from the apartment doorway. Emily quickly gathered the letters and receipts, stepping out of Sophia's room, her face pale and troubled. Margaret saw Emily's shaken expression and set down her grocery bags immediately. "Emily, what's wrong?" Emily hesitated, tears slipping down her cheeks. Silently, she handed Margaret the letters. Margaret read quickly, her expression darkening into deep sadness. "Oh, Emily," Margaret whispered, pulling her granddaughter close. "I never imagined Sophia's feelings ran this deep." Emily shook her head, voice choked with emotion. "She hid everything from me. She even saw doctors before we went together. She must have known something was wrong, yet she kept using the perfume." Margaret sighed softly, her voice heavy with regret. "Envy blinds people, sweetheart. She wanted what she saw in you, even at her own expense." Emily felt anger rise again, sharp and bitter. "But she risked my health too. She knew something wasn't right, yet she kept it secret." Margaret squeezed Emily's shoulder gently. "We don't know her reasons fully, Emily. People in pain don't always act rationally." Emily sank onto the sofa, rubbing her eyes tiredly. "I don't know how to face her now. How can I trust anything she says?" Margaret sat beside her, gently taking Emily's hand. "Maybe it's time you both spoke openly, Emily. Secrets caused this pain. Truth, even if painful, is the only way forward." Emily nodded slowly, knowing Margaret was right. But how could she confront Sophia when her own feelings felt so raw, tangled and confused. The next morning, Emily returned to the hospital alone, steeling herself for a difficult conversation. Sophia was awake, looking slightly stronger but clearly nervous as Emily entered. "Emily, I'm glad you came," Sophia said quietly, watching her carefully. "We need to talk." Emily nodded, heart pounding nervously. "Yes, we do." Sophia swallowed hard, struggling to speak clearly. "I know you found things in my room. Letters, receipts. I saw it in your face yesterday." Emily hesitated briefly, then nodded again. "Why, Sophia? Why hide this from me? Why keep using the perfume when you knew it was hurting you, and possibly me?" Sophia's eyes filled with tears, shame visible in every line of her face. "Because, Emily, I was desperate. For once, I felt special, valuable like you. Every time I wore it, I believed things could change. I ignored the symptoms at first, convincing myself it was nothing serious." Emily's voice trembled with anger and hurt. "But you risked my health too, Sophia. You lied to me repeatedly. You took something deeply personal and betrayed my trust. How do I forgive that?" Sophia shook her head weakly, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I don't know, Emily. I don't expect forgiveness easily. I was selfish, reckless. I was blinded by envy, and I hate myself for it. But please know, hurting you intentionally was never my goal." Emily sat silently, absorbing Sophia's painful honesty. Finally, she sighed, emotion thick in her voice. "I know you didn't mean physical harm, Sophia. But the emotional damage might be worse. I trusted you completely, and that's broken now." Sophia nodded sadly, understanding. "I know. I ruined everything." Emily stood slowly, heart heavy. "I need time, Sophia. Trust can't be fixed overnight. But maybe honesty is a start." Sophia watched Emily leave, guilt etched deeply into her pale features. Emily returned home, feeling emotionally drained yet clearer than before. She had glimpsed the hidden truths beneath Sophia's envy, realizing envy was as toxic as the perfume itself. Healing would be slow, difficult, uncertain. But Emily knew, finally, that only truth and openness could mend the fractures left by secrecy. Their friendship, if it survived at all, would never be the same again. Yet despite everything, she hoped, carefully, cautiously, that forgiveness was still possible. 2 weeks after her confrontation with Sophia, Emily sat quietly in the hospital waiting area, feeling a sense of numbness that had become familiar. Sophia was finally scheduled for release that afternoon. Though her recovery had been slow, the doctors were cautiously optimistic about her future. Emily still wasn't sure how she felt about that, relieved, of course, yet deeply unsettled. Margaret sat beside her, gently knitting a scarf, her movements steady and comforting. She'd been Emily's constant support since arriving, offering both wisdom and compassion in a situation that felt increasingly complicated. "Do you think you're ready for this?" Margaret asked softly, her knitting needles clicking rhythmically. Emily hesitated before answering, glancing toward Sophia's room down the corridor. "I don't really know. I keep trying to imagine forgiving her, but every time I do, I remember the lies. The betrayal still hurts too much." Margaret nodded knowingly, her eyes thoughtful. "Forgiveness is rarely quick or easy. But neither is it impossible. Sometimes it just takes time and space." Emily sighed quietly. "Space feels like giving up on our friendship. I hate the idea of abandoning her, especially when she's vulnerable." Margaret's eyes softened gently. "Caring about her doesn't mean ignoring your own hurt, Emily. Friendship can only survive when trust returns, not before." Emily absorbed Margaret's words silently, feeling the weight of their truth settle uncomfortably inside her. She knew Margaret was right, but the choice still felt painful and uncertain. Soon after, a nurse approached, informing them Sophia was ready. Emily stood slowly, heart pounding nervously as she moved toward Sophia's room. Margaret followed closely behind, providing a comforting presence. Sophia sat quietly on the edge of her hospital bed, dressed in casual clothes, looking frail yet composed. She met Emily's eyes hesitantly, clearly unsure how to proceed. "Hi," Sophia said softly, her voice tentative. Emily forced a small smile, stepping forward cautiously. Hi. Ready to go home? Sophia nodded slightly, glancing nervously between Emily and Margaret. I'm not sure what home means anymore. Margaret stepped forward gently, placing a reassuring hand on Sophia's shoulder. For now, we'll get you settled. Everything else can wait. They left the hospital quietly, each woman lost in her own thoughts. The taxi ride home felt impossibly long, filled only with awkward silence punctuated occasionally by Margaret's gentle attempts at casual conversation. Emily stared silently out the window, wrestling with conflicting emotions. Back at the apartment, Sophia moved slowly toward her bedroom, hesitating at the doorway. Emily, can we talk privately for a moment? Emily nodded silently, following Sophia inside, closing the door softly behind her. Sophia sat gingerly on the bed, exhaustion clear on her face. I know words aren't enough, Sophia began quietly, eyes downcast. But I need to say this again. I'm truly sorry, Emily. I was so blinded by my own jealousy, I didn't realize how deeply I was hurting you. Emily felt a lump rise in her throat, her voice unsteady as she responded. I want to believe you, Sophia. I do. But your actions, those letters, the secrets, hiding your symptoms from me, everything you did makes it so hard to trust. Sophia's eyes filled with tears, shame etched painfully into her features. I don't deserve your trust yet. But please know, it wasn't personal in the way you might think. I was lost, Emily. I hated myself, my failures, my endless rejections. You had everything I wished for, a stable career, someone like Margaret who truly loves you. That perfume just became a symbol of everything I wanted, but thought I could never have. Emily sat quietly, absorbing Sophia's painful honesty. But envy shouldn't justify betrayal, Sophia. You knowingly risked my health and lied about it. You hid your symptoms, even as mine worsened. I needed honesty, not deception. Sophia nodded weakly, tears slipping freely down her pale cheeks. You're right. And that's something I'll always regret. Seeing you hurt because of me, it was the last thing I ever wanted. Emily sighed deeply, feeling exhausted and uncertain. What do you want me to do, Sophia? Just forget this happened and move on like nothing changed. Sophia shook her head slowly, voice trembling. No. I could never expect that. I only hope you'll give me a chance, eventually, to prove I've learned from this. That I can be trusted again. But if you can't forgive me, I'll understand. Emily felt a wave of sadness wash over her, seeing Sophia's genuine remorse. Forgiveness isn't impossible, she finally said softly. But trust takes time, and I don't know when or if it can ever fully come back. Sophia lowered her eyes sadly, understanding the weight of Emily's words. Maybe it's best if I find somewhere else to stay. You deserve space to heal, and I need to confront myself properly, away from the comfort I've taken for granted. Emily hesitated, startled by Sophia's decision, though it made sense. Are you sure? You're still recovering. Sophia smiled faintly, a hint of maturity now evident beneath her pain. I think it's necessary for both of us. I need to grow up, Emily, and that won't happen here. Emily nodded slowly, respect mingling with her lingering sorrow. Where will you go? Sophia shrugged weakly. A friend from acting classes has offered me a spare room temporarily. It's nothing fancy, but I'll survive. After a long silence, Emily finally spoke again, softly. Then maybe this is the right choice for now. Sophia nodded again, sadness evident in every gesture. I hope someday things will be different between us, Emily. Even if it takes years, I'll never stop hoping. Emily stood quietly, her heart heavy but oddly lighter than before. Perhaps distance was exactly what they needed, a chance to rebuild trust separately, slowly, carefully. Later, as Emily watched Sophia quietly pack her belongings, Margaret joined her in the hallway, placing a comforting hand on Emily's shoulder. You're doing the right thing, Margaret whispered gently. Time heals wounds, Emily. Even the deepest ones. Emily sighed deeply, leaning into Margaret's comforting presence. I hope so. I really do. That night, after Sophia left with a final quiet goodbye, Emily lay awake in her bed, staring at the ceiling, tears silently sliding down her cheeks. Their apartment felt emptier than ever before, yet strangely filled with a quiet hope that someday healing, and perhaps forgiveness, would finally arrive. But for now, Emily accepted the painful truth that sometimes friendship required distance to survive. And maybe, just maybe, separation would be the first real step toward rebuilding something stronger and more honest between them. In the days following Sophia's departure, Emily struggled to adapt to the quiet emptiness that filled the apartment. Though Margaret remained by her side, offering warmth and gentle conversation, Sophia's absence was profoundly felt. Emily often found herself pausing by Sophia's now empty room, memories lingering heavily behind the closed door. Despite the tension that had driven them apart, Emily worried about Sophia. After everything they'd endured, she couldn't simply erase the years of friendship and shared laughter that had once been effortless. Sophia had betrayed her trust deeply, yet Emily still hoped she was healing physically and emotionally, away from the reminders of their shared past. One afternoon, Emily received a call from Hannah, who spoke softly but urgently. "Emily, have you heard from Sophia?" Hannah asked cautiously. Emily hesitated, sensing worry in Hannah's voice. "Not since she moved out." "Why? Is something wrong?" Hannah sighed softly. "She reached out to me last night, sounding strange, unsteady, I guess. She mentioned feeling really sick again, but she didn't want you to know." Emily's heart twisted anxiously. Did she say what was wrong? Did she go back to the hospital? No, Hannah admitted quietly. She refused. She seemed scared, maybe embarrassed. "I thought you should know, just in case." Emily thanked Hannah quickly, hanging up the phone, her pulse racing uncomfortably. She shared the news immediately with Margaret, who listened intently, her brow furrowing deeply in concern. "Emily, Sophia's health could still be fragile," Margaret reminded gently. "Exposure like hers might have lasting effects." Emily nodded, her stomach tightening with guilt and worry. "I know. But how can I help her when she clearly wants distance? I don't want to intrude, but I can't ignore this either." Margaret touched Emily's hand reassuringly. "Perhaps reaching out is exactly what's needed now. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting the past, but kindness is never wrong." With Margaret's encouragement, Emily dialed Sophia's number, anxiety growing with each unanswered ring. After several attempts, the call finally connected, and Sophia's voice sounded weak and exhausted. "Emily?" Sophia whispered uncertainly, her breathing labored. Emily felt fear grip her chest. "Sophia, are you okay? Hannah told me you weren't feeling well." Sophia hesitated, clearly struggling. I didn't want to bother you again. I thought it was just stress or exhaustion, but it's getting worse. I don't know what to do." Emily's heart ached hearing Sophia's vulnerable admission. "I'm coming over right now. You shouldn't be alone." Sophia hesitated briefly but eventually whispered, "Okay. Please hurry." Emily arrived at Sophia's temporary apartment quickly, anxiety sharp in her chest as she climbed the stairs. She knocked softly, and when Sophia opened the door, Emily's breath caught in shock. Sophia looked even weaker than before, pale, frail, her eyes hollow and sunken. "Sophia," Emily whispered, voice filled with alarm. "You need a doctor immediately." Sophia shook her head weakly, tears filling her eyes. "Emily, I'm scared. I thought it was getting better, but it's worse. I feel like something's really wrong inside me." Emily gently guided Sophia to sit down, her own pulse racing fearfully. She immediately called an ambulance, explaining Sophia's symptoms urgently. Within minutes, paramedics arrived, carefully helping Sophia downstairs while Emily stayed close beside her. At the hospital, doctors quickly assessed Sophia's deteriorating condition. Emily waited anxiously outside the treatment room, Margaret arriving shortly afterward, offering silent support. Time stretched painfully until finally, a doctor approached, his face somber. "Sophia's symptoms indicate severe internal organ strain," he explained gently. "The earlier exposure weakened her body significantly. Unfortunately, the damage was more extensive than initially realized." Emily's stomach tightened painfully. Can you help her? The doctor hesitated, choosing his words carefully. We're doing everything possible, but there's risk of permanent complications. We need to stabilize her quickly, or her condition could become life-threatening. Emily sank onto a nearby chair, shock overwhelming her. Margaret sat beside her quietly, gently holding Emily's hand, whispering comforting words. Emily's mind spun, grappling with the devastating news. Sophia's recklessness had left lasting scars, physical reminders of envy's destructive power. Later, when Sophia was stable enough for visitors, Emily quietly entered her hospital room, heart heavy. Sophia lay motionless, eyes closed, breathing softly beneath pale hospital blankets. As Emily approached, Sophia slowly opened her eyes, sadness and exhaustion evident. "Emily," Sophia whispered weakly, tears glistening in her eyes. "I've made such a mess of everything." Emily sat beside her gently, voice trembling with emotion. "Sophia, none of this was worth it. Not envy, not resentment. It could have cost your life." Sophia nodded slowly, shame filling her expression. "I realize that now, Emily. All that jealousy, it ate away at me, poisoned my thoughts long before the perfume ever did. I don't know how I let it control me." Emily sighed softly, compassion mixing painfully with lingering hurt. "Maybe we both missed signs along the way. But now, you have to heal, not just physically, but emotionally. We both do." Sophia's eyes met Emily's tearfully. "Do you think that's still possible?" Emily hesitated briefly, carefully choosing her words. "Healing takes honesty, patience, and trust. I don't know if trust can fully return, but I know forgiveness is possible in time." Sophia managed a faint, hopeful smile. "That's more than I deserve right now. But it's enough." Emily gently squeezed Sophia's hand, understanding finally replacing anger. "We both made mistakes, Sophia. Your envy hurt us deeply, but maybe it also forced us to confront truths we needed to face. We can't undo what's happened, but we can learn from it." Sophia nodded quietly, exhaustion overcoming her again as she drifted into restless sleep. Emily stayed by her side silently, realizing forgiveness wasn't a single moment, but a journey, painful yet hopeful. Later, alone with Margaret in the hospital lobby, Emily reflected quietly. "Do you think Sophia can fully recover from this?" Margaret's gaze softened gently, wisdom filling her voice. "Physically, I hope so. Emotionally, that depends entirely on her. Envy wounds deeply, Emily. The damage lingers unless we heal from within." Emily nodded, understanding fully the truth of Margaret's words. Envy had nearly destroyed their friendship, Sophia's health, and Emily's trust. Yet somehow, despite the devastation, Emily found herself believing again, slowly, cautiously, in redemption and renewal. As Emily walked quietly beside Margaret into the cool evening air, she felt hope stir gently within her heart. Healing might be long and difficult, but Sophia's courage to face her mistakes openly marked the first real step forward. And for now, Emily decided that was enough to hold on to. Months passed quietly, marked by gradual healing and careful steps forward. Sophia's recovery was slow and difficult, but eventually, her condition stabilized enough for her to leave the hospital once again. This time, she moved home to stay with her family, far away from the city and the painful memories it held. Emily's life slowly returned to a peaceful routine, though it was never quite the same as before. Margaret stayed with her for several weeks more, offering gentle wisdom and quiet comfort until finally returning home herself. Emily soon realized that despite the pain and betrayal that had disrupted their lives, something important had shifted within her, leaving behind a deeper understanding of herself and those around her. One quiet evening, Emily received a letter from Sophia. The envelope felt strangely heavy in her hands, not from weight, but from the unspoken words Emily knew lay inside. She hesitated briefly, then opened it carefully, finding several pages written in Sophia's familiar handwriting. Sophia had poured her heart onto each page, explaining with raw honesty how envy had silently destroyed her from the inside, poisoning every aspect of her life until it finally spilled over. She described her struggle with self-worth, her desperation to succeed, and how Emily's quiet, stable happiness had seemed impossible to achieve. Sophia admitted openly that envy had distorted her perception, blinding her completely to the damage she caused, not only to Emily but also to herself. Sophia also revealed something Emily hadn't expected: gratitude. Gratitude that Emily had intervened when she did, saving her from the worst of her own choices. Gratitude that Emily had confronted her directly, forcing Sophia to face truths she had hidden even from herself. The letter concluded with a simple request: forgiveness. Not immediate or easy forgiveness, but the possibility that someday, trust and friendship might return. Sophia expressed no expectations, only quiet hope that, in time, healing could bridge the gap between them. Emily finished reading with tears in her eyes, emotions swirling complexly inside her. Sophia's honesty and humility moved her deeply, yet the pain of betrayal still lingered beneath the surface, tender and raw. She knew forgiveness wasn't simply a choice. It was a journey that would continue for months, perhaps years, until trust felt genuine again. Emily carefully folded the letter, placing it safely in a drawer, her heart slightly lighter. She understood clearly now that forgiveness wasn't about forgetting or excusing the past. It was about freeing herself from resentment and opening the door for healing. In that quiet moment, she knew forgiveness had already begun. Weeks turned into months, and Emily found herself slowly regaining peace. Her career flourished as she poured renewed energy into projects she cared deeply about. Margaret remained a guiding presence, their bond stronger and more meaningful than ever before. Yet even with growing peace, Emily often thought of Sophia, wondering about her recovery, hoping she'd found some measure of happiness. Then, on a quiet summer morning, nearly a year after the perfume had first arrived, Emily received a gentle knock at her door. Opening it, she found Sophia standing there, visibly stronger and healthier, though cautious uncertainty marked her expression. "Emily," Sophia said softly, voice filled with nervous emotion. "Can we talk?" Emily hesitated only briefly, then stepped aside, inviting Sophia in. They sat awkwardly together in the living room, silence stretching between them until finally Sophia spoke. "I know showing up like this is probably a shock," Sophia began quietly, eyes downcast. "But I needed you to see how truly sorry I am, how much I've changed. This past year forced me to face myself honestly, without excuses." Emily listened quietly, heart tightening with emotion. "I believe you, Sophia. Your letter showed me that. But forgiveness, real forgiveness, has been complicated. I'm trying, but it's hard." Sophia nodded gently, understanding clearly visible in her eyes. "I never expected easy forgiveness, Emily. I just wanted you to know I've changed. I let envy consume me until it nearly destroyed everything. I lost my health, our friendship, my own sense of worth. I don't want to live that way again." Emily sighed softly, her voice gentle yet firm. "I want to forgive you fully, Sophia. And in some ways, I already have. But trusting again, that takes longer." Sophia met Emily's eyes steadily, sincerity filling every word. "Then let me earn your trust slowly. Let me prove I'm a different person now. Even if it takes years, I'm willing to rebuild from the start." Emily felt warmth spread through her chest, recognizing genuine maturity and humility in Sophia's voice. "I'd like that," she said finally, quietly. "Maybe we can't go back to what we had, but perhaps we can build something new, something stronger." Sophia smiled gently, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I'd like that too, Emily. More than anything." In that quiet moment, forgiveness finally settled deeply into Emily's heart. It wasn't sudden or dramatic. Rather, it arrived gently, like sunlight after a long storm, healing wounds slowly and carefully. After Sophia left, promising they'd talk again soon, Emily felt lighter than she had in months. She called Margaret immediately, sharing the unexpected visit, her voice filled with cautious hope. Margaret listened warmly, wisdom gentle in her response. "You're both healing, Emily. Forgiveness doesn't erase pain, but it allows new growth. Friendship won't be exactly as before, but perhaps it can become even more meaningful because of what you've overcome." Emily smiled softly, grateful for Margaret's steady presence. She knew Margaret was right. Forgiveness and healing required strength, honesty, patience, and now, finally, both women were ready to rebuild something stronger, rooted deeply in truth. Months later, Emily stood quietly by the window of her apartment, gazing thoughtfully into the bustling city below. Her friendship with Sophia was gradually mending, slowly growing stronger through mutual effort and honesty. Trust would never return easily or completely, but their connection now carried deeper understanding and maturity. Emily had finally come to appreciate the difficult journey she'd endured, recognizing clearly how envy had nearly destroyed both women's lives. Now she saw envy's poison clearly, determined never to let it touch her heart again. When her birthday arrived once more, Emily received another carefully wrapped package from Margaret. Inside was a small, simple pendant, along with a handwritten note. "Emily, my darling granddaughter, may this gift remind you always of your true worth, untouched by envy or doubt. Love, Grandma Margaret." Emily held the pendant gently, tears filling her eyes as she smiled softly. Margaret's wisdom had guided her through darkness, teaching valuable lessons about trust, friendship, and forgiveness. This time, Emily knew she would cherish Margaret's gift wisely, keeping it close as a quiet reminder of strength gained through struggle. She had survived betrayal, pain, and envy's poison, yet emerged stronger, wiser, and finally at peace. And as Emily carefully clasped the pendant around her neck, she felt deep gratitude, knowing that healing had come at last, gentle and certain, guiding her forward toward a brighter, more honest future.